But what we were finding is that a key differential from vrtly is we're actually giving the product, the screens, the software, everything to practices away for free. So you'll never have to pay a dime for a vrtly service as long as you're on the platform, and it's actually supported by the partner brands that you as a clinician select. And our promise is we will never ever run an ad on the screen that the provider hasn't explicitly said, I want to be a partner with this brand. And the really interesting piece is this process of, what we call kind of two-way consent. The brand says, I really want to be in this practice. And the provider says, I really want this brand to advertise in my practice. That process, which we actually filed a utility patent for, and is a novel concept, a novel approach. Effectively, what that does is it allows practices and brands to market together more harmoniously.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business, and today is no exception. Today with us in the studio we have Joe Schuler from vrtly. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Grant. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you here, and it's great to get to know you.
Thank you.
So, first of all, where are you from?
I'm originally from a town called Campbell, California, which is about maybe 5 miles south of San Jose. So a Bay Area kid through and through. Grew up there in the 80s, and I actually bought a house back there in 2020.
And where'd you go to college?
I went to undergraduate at University of the Pacific in Stockton.
Yep.
Go Tigers. Mm-hmm. And then I went to graduate school at UCSF in San Francisco.
And what's your undergrad and graduate degree?
Yeah, my undergrad was in genetics, biological sciences, and my graduate degree was actually in bioengineering. So natural fit that I ended up at an ad tech company, right?
You'll have to walk me through that one.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that'll come up.
Yeah.
Okay, so UOP undergrad, UCSF grad school, bioengineering.
Bioengineering, yeah. I used to do research on quantitative MRI, so how you could scan an MRI with a regular MRI scan and quantify different tissue composition healths. So for instance, we would look at, particularly in osteoarthritic cartilage of the knee, different scans and how we could tell water composition and other types of proteins in the cartilage that might be an early indicator of cartilage degradation.
Were you there at the med school at UCSF?
I was, yeah. So it was part of the medical school. UCSF is actually exclusive. I'm sure you know this is exclusively a graduate school. Yep. It's kind of like the medical graduate school of Cal.
Yep.
And so most people there are either bioengineering, obviously medicine, dentistry, extensive healthcare backgrounds.
So how many years were you there?
I was at UCSF as a research associate for 4 years and a grad student for about 2, so 6 in total.
Wow, that's a commitment.
Yeah, it is.
And then what was your first job after that?
Yeah, then I worked at Stanford, kind of doing something very similar. So a research associate at Stanford. And then I was at a time in my life where I was deciding, what do I want to do next? Do I want to go to medical school? Do I want to, get a PhD or something? And a friend of mine worked at a company called Ancestry.com, a genealogy business.
Sure.
And it was, he was like, hey, we have a job opening here. And, I didn't really expect my tech career to be kind of as long as it's been then. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll go make some money because I had been, making $30,000 a year for like 8 years now. So I was just completely broke. And it was a great way for me to, have an introduction into technology, and then the rest is history after that.
Okay. Well, keep going. Tell me about it. What would you work for next? I know I've heard, I looked at your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Go ahead and share with us who all you've worked with.
It's
before you get to vrtly. So tell, come on, let the audience know.
Absolutely. So I spent a bit of time at eBay after Ancestry. Was part of an unfortunate layoff there, but it was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me in retrospect, because right after eBay, I actually got my first, I would say kind of the real first job in technology, which was at Google. And I was
So you guys hear that? He went from eBay to Google. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Worked at Google and actually Alphabet's life sciences company, vrtly, for a mixture of about 4.5 years. And then left there and went to Amazon, and was at
another little company, Amazon.
Another little company, might have heard of it. Was at Amazon for about 3 years throughout the pandemic, and then went to Apple after Amazon for about a year, and then that's when Voin Koss, the CEO of vrtly, and I kind of came up with this business idea after I left Apple to start a consulting business, and Voin and I came up with this idea, and then now I'm at vrtly.
So you left Apple and became a consultant before Voin hired you?
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you and Voin know each other?
So Voin, we actually were introduced through a friend of mine, a product manager at vrtly, former product manager at vrtly, Ashley Moulton, who was like, hey, Voin is now the interim CEO of a new company, and he has some ideas on transitioning to making it an advertising business. And she was like, it'd be perfect for you to talk to him. And I remember I was on my way to a dentist appointment in Santa Cruz. So I was going over Highway 17 in the Bay Area. It's like this windy, mountainous road, often famous for losing cell service. And was talking to Voin on the phone. He was on a beach in Hawaii. And in that 45 minutes, we basically hashed out the entire business plan for this company. So it was kind of a cool folklore in the origin story for vrtly, where through a lot of broken signals and calling him back, and him calling me back, we hashed out what became vrtly today.
I love that story.
Yeah.
Persistence.
Exactly.
And before vrtly was vrtly, what was the company? So
vrtly was formerly known as a company called Friend Media, and Nick's been on this show I think a couple times. They did a really great job. Kind of established like a good, I would say, product market fit, especially for like a small subset of aesthetics providers, and kind of enabled us to sort of get really creative with the new business ideas that we've had since then. But yeah, formerly Friend Media, and really indebted to Nick for handing over the baton.
And how is vrtly similar to and different from Friend Media?
Yeah, I think what we've done at vrtly now that's a departure from Friend Media is we've really established product market fit, I'd say, with a more wider array of aesthetics practices, right? Not to get too deep in the weeds, but Friend Media was what's called a SaaS model. So it basically charged practices a monthly fee in order for the service.
Hold on one second. SaaS, software as a service.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Should have a little bell or something on here.
Acronyms.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, go back.
Yeah, and which was great. And there's a lot of, I think, benefits, and certainly that fits the needs for, I'd say, a subset of aesthetics providers, larger companies that can have the ability to hire a marketing manager and even afford the SaaS fees. But what we were finding is that a key differential from vrtly is we're actually giving the product, the screens, the software, everything to practices away for free. So you'll never have to pay a dime for a vrtly service as long as you're on the platform, and it's actually supported by the partner brands that you as a clinician select. And our promise is we will never ever run an ad on the screen that the provider hasn't explicitly said, I want to be a partner with this brand. And the really interesting piece is this process of, what we call kind of two-way consent. The brand says, I really want to be in this practice. And the provider says, I really want this brand to advertise in my practice. That process, which we actually filed a utility patent for, and is a novel concept, a novel approach. Effectively, what that does is it allows practices and brands to market together more harmoniously. It creates a team, right, which they can, drive consistent messaging to their patients on. And that's really where we think we differentiated from Friend Media, which was more of a content management company. And so what we've done is really tried to create, this synergistic, harmonious relationship between the practices and the brands that sell stuff that the practices, use as well.
So what's the value proposition for the practice?
Yeah, so, it's free, first of all. You have access to a ton of amazing content in our brand library. The third thing is that you have the ability to upload your own custom ad campaigns. So we've put extensive work and development time into making templates, into integrating with different social media platforms, such that if you have a Facebook or YouTube account as a practice, you don't even need to bother, pulling that off the internet and re-uploading it. You can just connect directly with your login credentials, and boop, it's updated to the system. So what we really wanted to do, and on top of like many other things, is we really wanted to create a way for practices who are already strapped with time, who have, and might not, their skill isn't necessarily as marketers, but we wanted to enable them with the right scalable tools to help them solve the small business challenge for them in a really easy and free way.
So you even put the screens up?
We
mean,
can.
You pay for them?
I will personally drive to there and put the screens up if they need it. But if right now the way that we power screens is really twofold. We have a small HDMI stick similar to an Amazon Fire Stick that you can plug into your TV. Then you're automatically connected to the cloud and your account after that. In addition to that, we're extensively exploring and developing connected TV apps so that in the future we want to just cut that hardware middle person out of the equation altogether. It's going to be a much more seamless and easy customer experience if they can just go to their app store on their Roku TV, for instance, click, download. The vrtly icon will be right next to the Netflix icon, and they could just click and play it and be up and running in less than 3 minutes.
And they will have the ability to watch this content before approving it?
Absolutely. Another big change we made is, we wanted this to be flexible for practices, meaning that, it has to be, exactly. The Friend Media of old, it was a little rigid, not super flexible. One of the first changes I made when I came in was actually implementing this, where as a clinician, you want to have different messaging on different screens. So if you have
absolutely in different rooms,
screens, exactly, yeah,
100%.
And so not only that, you also want to put a finer point on it, we really just wanted to enable the proper storytelling for the setting within the clinic, right? That was really important for us to do because we've heard clinicians loud and clear saying like, I don't want, to play a cool sculpting ad in my cool sculpting room. I'd rather upsell something else, or I'd rather highlight, my own like promo special, or drive people to my, Google reviews page to leave a 5-star review. And just have this fully customizable around the clinic. And in the new vrtly UI, which stands for user interface, bell, I'll ring the bell on that one. In the new vrtly user interface, we introduced this concept called spaces, which is really just a super simple way that practices can organize the screens around their clinic. They can break out new rooms, they can label their screens and devices, and they can customize what content they add to each screen. In a really seamless and straightforward way. Honestly, it takes, less than 5 minutes per screen. So that was a huge tenet of ours, is to make it simple, useful, and flexible.
So given that you give away the screens, the content, there's certain expenses associated with that. What's in it for the company? I mean, I know obviously they get ad time, but you've mentioned the physician can have some of that time. Is there a limit of what % of the total screen in the working day that the physician can utilize it for their own use?
Yeah, we're exploring.
How does that work?
We're exploring different content rules and guidelines right now, but ultimately what we want to do is just really incorporate all the signals that the practice has provided us, right? And another key on the topic of just differences from Friend Media, I think the Friend Media of old required you to kind of go in and, stack a playlist like you would a YouTube playlist or something. What we really want to do is we want practices to just give our system a set of high-level rules. So for instance, if you follow 3 brands and you have custom content, we're really going to kind of give an even split to all your choices. But more importantly, what it does is we're kind of following the lead of other tech companies. If you look at Spotify, or YouTube, I was looking through some old YouTube playlists I had back in like 2010, but really, YouTube now just kind of knows what you like and sort of feeds you more custom content that you want, specifically tailored to you. That's the exact same algorithmic approach, or just a set of rules that sort of defines the logic of how the playlist is constructed behind the scenes. And the AI in our domain name is basically centered around this automated way that we can put the right piece of content in front of the right user at the right time, which is, a tenet of just all advertising technology in general. So,
and what keeps it entertaining if it's just advertisement?
Well, it's funny because people like pay, and you might have experienced this too, but folks, that are in the clinic, they're just hyper engaged. You have somebody who's already there for a treatment. They're curious about what else is going on. And this is actually a really important point because, this is an audience that's already pre-engaged with whatever, you're selling, and like, oh, Dr. Stevens is this great treatment on me. Like, what else does he have to offer? We find that folks are hyper engaged with brand content. They're super curious to learn about what brands have to offer. Brands are also phenomenal marketers. I mean, these people have huge marketing teams, super creative people on their side that can help, understand the messaging that drives like the right results, how a product is framed. And we just enable them a channel to do that, right? And, the engagement sort of happens organically. The cool thing about how we capture that, though, is we can capture that through a number of signals, like a QR code scan, right? I actually don't know what that acronym means, to be honest. It's something quantifiable. I don't know what. Either way, quick response. There you go. Okay. So a QR code scan or like a short code text. So for instance, text Botox to 34567. That enables patients in the waiting room to engage with these brands or pieces of custom content, to engage with your practice at a much more deeper level, because now they're on their phone. If you wanted to, put them on if you had a rewards program specifically for your clinic, you could have an ad, a vrtly ad that runs with a QR link that drives people to that specific rewards program and have them sign up in the clinic. So we're really just trying to provide the right engagement signals and avenues for patients to engage with this content at a deeper level.
And does industry pay you?
Yeah, so I mean, we are an advertising technology business at our core, but again, back to our fundamental promise is that we will never run an ad that is not that the staff, the physician, doesn't want to run in their practice. So if you don't select a brand, we will never run that brand. Our ad network is basically defined by this process of two-way consent, right? That handshake that has to happen between the brand and the practice, that enables let's say the landscape of possibilities for that brand. You really get into that, mode of, this clinic is engaged. They want to run these ads there. And then we will sort of serve ads at a more frequent rate for people that are willing to pay us a little bit more. That's pretty much our business model.
So myself as a business owner, as a physician, if I engage vrtly in my office and I say, I like the Allergan brand, I like the Galderma brand, I like the MERS brand. But I use Restylane, I use Botox, and I use Xeomin. So that's 3 different products, 3 different companies. I've invested in the brand, or I've said the brand. Will you be running the whole library of products, even though I might not use them? So, and incidentally, that's a hypothetical.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've actually done extensive work to sort of categorize like the hierarchy of these brands and products. And
so you don't get the whole brand. You get the actual product.
The product itself, exactly.
So if someone says, "No, I use this product." Exactly. And I use this one from this other brand, they can customize it that way?
They can customize it that way.
And you're not going to slip this in?
No.
Creating confusion amongst the consumers is even worse.
That what you just hit on, like, is the last thing any business wants to do is confuse or disappoint their customer base. And by advertising a product that you don't carry, that's exactly what you're going to do. Because they'll go to you, Dr. Stevens, where's this? You're like, oh, crap, like, vrtly's at it again or something, But so we've done extensive work to create like a metadata hierarchy, which is just a fancy way of saying there's all these different tags for these brands. So one or particular products. One tag could be the brand. The other tag could be what type of treatment it is. Maybe it's a dermatology treatment or whatever. And then what that does is we can give that to the physician and say, all right, select what you want, and you can be as granular as you want as well. Right? Get super specific. If you only want, a handful of products and that's what you want to advertise, that's great. Go for it. Those brands are going to be happy to be a part of your clinic and the story that you tell your patients.
Okay. So how have you been doing since you switched over from Friend Media to vrtly? What's been going on from a corporate structure?
Yeah, we've been doing just a really great, I think on the corporate side, it's been really exciting, since Voin Koss, the CEO, has taken over. Super bright guy.
Isn't he from HintMD?
He is from HintMD, exactly.
He's been on the program.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's
And
an
before that,
earlier
Zeltique.
Yeah, exactly. I know you guys go way back.
Yeah,
so
he's a good buddy.
Yeah, he's...
So he took over,
Yeah.
switched the name, hired you. He's sitting on the best beaches of the world, and he's talking to you.
Right, and we're coming up with this concept as we're driving through the road. And that, we had a slide in our investor deck that kind of highlighted it. We took it out. It was a little campy. But it is a good story, right, for us to, kind of do it. And we've become really good friends in the process of doing this. And, he and I have a high level of trust. And it's great when you kind of have that. And Aubrey as well. Aubrey Rankin is a member of our board. Just phenomenal folks, really smart. Just give us guidance, give me coaching personally on my career, and it's great having somebody like Voin, who's an established business person. He can handle that side while I focus on the technology side.
And what's your position?
I'm Chief Product Officer.
Chief Product Officer.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a position I'm familiar with,
Yeah,
but I know I'll get to know it.
Yeah. It's a good, we can expand on that a little bit, because in the tech industry, there's this field of study or role called products, right? And a product manager, you might hear that term being thrown around a fair amount of times. Product managers are like the business side of the engineering org, and they really answer the question, what should we build? So, for instance, Sundar Pichai, the CEO at Google, he's a former product manager and essentially helped develop the Chrome browser. So the Chrome web browser that came up, that was one of his big ideas, and he saw a market gap when everyone was using Internet Explorer or Safari or these crappy browsers, that they might use. Sorry, Apple. He saw a gap and created this massive business unit within Google, which is highly profitable, delights their customers. But he did that in a way by just understanding the market, understanding a little bit of the tech side, what's possible, and being able to merge those two. On the other side, you have engineering, which is essentially your software developers, right? And maybe the more technical folks. They answer the question, okay, based on what product says we should build, how should we implement this? What's the best way to do it? What's the most efficient way to do it? What's the most creative way that we can implement it? And you really need both of those sides to really run an effective tech company. And so I've been a product manager for years, as kind of like somebody who's a former engineer, right. And has transitioned more onto the business side. But I still can speak fluent nerd with all the rest of the engineers, right, as well. So, yeah.
Fluent nerd.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of fluent nerd, where does vrtly come from?
Yeah, so vrtly, it's an interesting question, because we wanted to have the STEM vert in there, which is obviously part of advertising, right? So we wanted to have that in there, and we were looking across all these. This is like really inside baseball. We were running extensive trademark searches and stuff like that, and we had a couple names that were in front of it, just to be honest, and we settled on vrtly without the E for a couple of different reasons. It was an easy domain to get, right? And that's important for us, right? So we give our customers the right place to go, not something like tryvrtly.com. I really am against that kind of domain name from a website standpoint. But most importantly, it was short and punchy, and vrtly, VERTLY, unfortunately had a trademark against it already. So we settled on scrapping the E and getting the trademark through.
So it's VRTLY?
Yeah, .ai.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
So what's in the future for you? What do you see in your crystal ball?
Yeah. There's so many things. I think, we're really excited about the future for a number of different reasons. But I think that there are some, real ads privacy changes that have been occurring in the advertising industry in general. I don't know if you have an iPhone. I think you do. Yeah, but
I do.
There's that pop-up that happens where it says ask app not to track. If you click don't allow, so basically ask this app not to track me, that basically renders any ad or personalization for you as an individual user basically kaput at that point. What that means practically is that the marketers of the future, they need to interact with their consumer bases where they are naturally in the wild. So where, those consumers are congregating, and for medical brands, what better place than at the point of care? And so we're really excited when we look into our crystal ball. We say, okay, we have a great product. We have a strong understanding of what we want to do on the advertising technology side. And we have these dollars that are shifting into more what are called contextually relevant channels, of which point of care is one of those channels, advertising channels. Big brands, pharma brands, I think point of care ads make up almost 20% of their DTC budgets now in general healthcare. That's going to happen in aesthetics within the next couple of years. So we're really excited to capitalize on this trend. First and foremost, though, we need to nail and build the right products that our customers like. So crystal ball, we have the industry forces that are happening, and then really building a solid first-rate advertising technology system. That's at our core. That's what we want to do. That's what I've helped do across all these big ad tech companies already. And I'm trying to bring a little bit of that magic to vrtly.
Not every company has, say, a studio or the professionals to write the best content or to film the best content. Do you, as vrtly, also provide scripts and or actors and video and editing and all that? Or does this all come from the various companies?
I was just talking to the Influx CEO about this. We view content development as a massive untapped opportunity for us in partnering with the right people. We really want to give, I think where we can be the most helpful is in doing things like understanding what types of content is working and what's not out in the field. Mm-hmm. And, we don't claim to be experts in content production at all, but we would love to partner with somebody where we can form that synergy, because we have a ton of data on what's working out there. With that QR code example, right? There are out-of-the-box solutions that can tell you a video ad that you play, what was the background color? Was there a male or female narrator? All of these things, these features that are a little bit tough for the human eye to detect and analyze, we can run those through classification programs and get engagement across all of these really cool dimensions that you couldn't see before. That's a huge component of the tech that we're building. We want to partner with the right content producers to help drive that forward, so we can feed in the information, have somebody come in like Influx that does a great job in content production and help us with the content side. So we create this positive spiral of more and more engaging ads, better and better ads, and ultimately more useful ads to the patients.
Interesting. Yeah. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for having me.
No, Joe, it's an absolute pleasure, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and give my regards to Voyne and Aubrey.
Will do.
It's been a pleasure, and I want to thank you for coming down. Did you fly down today?
I did. Out and back in one day. I am, yeah.
Okay.
Many times in the Bay Area, you do that up and back to LA.
Absolutely.
In one day. Yeah.
Well, we certainly enjoyed having you. Next time, stay for a little bit longer. And if I can do anything to help you at vrtly, let me know.
Thank you, Grant.
I will be talking to you off camera about Engage Technologies.
Absolutely.
And our ability to give you some content.
Absolutely.
Certainly not to take anything off the Influx plate.
Right.
Wouldn't want to hurt my boys.
Yeah.
Influx.
Right.
Well, I want to thank all of you also for joining us on this exciting episode of The Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And today was no exception. Take care, Joe. See you guys next Tuesday.